I'm gonna be blunt. There is a fuckload of Pokemon out there. Games, movies, books, stuffed animals, trading cards, furniture, clothes, entire bedrooms. Okay, you get the point. Pokemon is a rite of passage for everyone in this day and age. At some point, you will be handed a Pokemon game and given that choice to pick your first Pokemon. For me, that journey started at a young age. At what age exactly, I don't remember, but it doesn't really matter. I was given a copy of Pokémon Ruby, and from there, it was off. There was no turning back from that Pokemon journey ahead of me. I still have that copy of Ruby, in fact, as well as copies of Sapphire and Emerald, because Gen 3 is the best gen, and no, I will not be taking questions. The point is, Pokemon is a massive franchise for a reason. So, today I want to delve into Pokemon, specifically Gen 3, and talk about why it is such an amazing thing. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe for more content like this, and tell me in the comments if there are any games you'd like to see me discuss in the future. Now, let's dive into the Hoenn region and talk about everyone's favorite pocket monsters. I can barely remember my first playthrough of Pokémon Ruby. All I know is that I didn't understand the game's secret hideout system, my party definitely had a Zangoose, and I remember the first Pokemon I ever got. The best Pokemon of all. My dude Mudkip. Just look at them, they're cute as hell. Now, as much as I want to talk about Mudkip for a full video, and trust me, I could, I want this video to be about Gen 3 of Pokemon, and how it grew the Pokemon brand and acts as a step up into what the series would eventually become. No matter what your favorite generation of Pokemon is, each one has a special place in the grand scheme of things, and how the series has grown and changed over the years. Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire first released in 2002, about 3 years after the previous generation. I was 2 years old at the time, so I didn't actually play the game till I was a little bit older, but the impact was still there. The games were surprisingly divisive amongst critics, some of whom were discouraged by the lack of gameplay differences from the previous generations. But even with the lack of stellar critical response, the game went on to become the highest selling on the Game Boy Advance. The major difference between myself and a critic at the time, however, apart from the age, of course, was that I was a completely fresh set of eyes for the game. I had never played another Pokemon, so something like gameplay differences didn't mean anything to me. For me, Pokemon was what I like to call the first escape. Video games are no stranger to escapism. They allow people to explore different worlds and become things other than themselves. For me, I was just a bored kid with nothing to do over summer break, but Pokemon Ruby was there for me. It gave me an opportunity to escape from the monotony of everyday life. This, I think, is a pretty common experience for people. The game doesn't matter, it could be literally any video game, but it's a single moment that captivates and excites you into continuing down the path of video games. But enough about me, let's actually talk about the games. Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire brought a few new additions to the Pokemon universe. A nice graphical update from the previous generations, a whole load of new Pokemon, but arguably the biggest addition was double battles. Pokemon had always been a 1v1 event, but with doubles, it allowed players to team up or to use two Pokemon at the same time. That led to a lot of new strategies. Having to balance more Pokemon types than before meant you needed to be much smarter about which Pokemon you were using in each situation. This also allowed for more players than ever before to connect and play together. In the earlier two generations, you were only able to connect a maximum of 2 Game Boys together, where you could trade or do battles. But with Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, you could connect up to 4 Game Boy Advances together, allowing for 2v2 battles and participation in contests, which were another new addition to the games. As the game's director Junichi Masuda put it in a 2003 interview, communication is the basic philosophy behind Pokemon. We thought about how we communicate with friends and then realized that software could be a great way to communicate. If somebody connects this Game Boy Advance platform with software like Pokemon, it can transform people. I would like to play Pokemon with my friends, and that is where our philosophy originates, as we believe other people would like to communicate with friends through Pokemon too. Therefore, communication was the key of this Pokemon game. With these entries, Nintendo and Game Freak set a precedent that connecting with friends would always be a part of the Pokémon experience, and that idea has grown and morphed over the subsequent generations. With advancements in technology and the improvement of things like Wi-Fi, connecting became easier than ever, but Ruby and Sapphire were the stepping stones. But the next step came sooner than anyone thought. A few years after Ruby and Sapphire, depending on where you live in the world, a third Gen 3 game was released, Pokémon Emerald. Around that same time, a new wireless adapter for the Game Boy Advance was released. This coincided with Pokémon Fire Red and Leaf Green, and allowed trading between Emerald and those games. This was a huge advancement and the precursor to the next console, the DS, having built-in Wi-Fi. Pokémon communication, trading, and battling pushed the boundaries for the ways that games worked, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. But it's honestly a really important part of gaming history. Nintendo probably wouldn't be where they are today without Pokémon. Now, there are a lot of things that I love about Ruby and Sapphire, just from a personal standpoint. And it's definitely not just that I had a crush on May growing up. That would be weird. The Hoenn region has always felt massive to me, even though, based on some calculations I have found on Reddit, it's probably not that large. But there is some incredibly smart use of game design that makes the game feel as big as it does. You start the game, as in pretty much every Pokemon game, in a small town out of the way. After getting your first Pokemon, you move up north, you wind your way around a bit, catching Pokemon, doing your first gym, typical Pokemon stuff. But where it gets interesting is right here. You take a boat south to Dewford, where the second gym leader is, and then after that you head east and then north to Slateport. The movement feels like you just traveled a massive distance, and while you kind of did, it happens really fast and it kind of pops you out in a completely new location, leading to tons more to explore. So what seems like a slightly closed off world is actually a much bigger one instead. Just that little roundabout movement the game takes you on really shakes up your perception on everything. I never even realized until right now, looking at this map, that Dewford is in the south, or that the starting town of Littleroot is that far to the west. I guess perceptions are a little different when you're a kid, but it still kind of surprises me. There's also the fact that a large portion of the Hoenn region is made up of water, and that makes movement feel a little more aimless and slower, especially if it's your first time playing the game. It's really easy to get lost while surfing, but at the same time, there's a ton of stuff to discover, so getting lost is just part of the fun. So while critics of the game are right, a lot of gameplay elements haven't changed much from previous games, I don't think Pokemon has ever needed to worry about changing that much, because guess what? Critics aren't the people the game was made for. The game is made for everyone. Pokemon has a premise and a gameplay style that just works. So while new improvements have come to the game and a lot has stayed the same, that's just fine. Because there will be kids out there like me who discover Pokemon for the first time and get sucked into an adventure, and that's something that no low score can ever take away. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw, be sure to subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and let me know in the comments if there are any games you'd like to see me talk about. Peace out, y'all. I'll catch you on the flip side.